Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another batch of Propagandacast news with me, your host, Imperial Dane, Master of Propaganda, here to deliver the news most suited for you. And we got some big news. This time, the patch date has been announced. It's going to be March 28th. That is, well, in about 4 days from when this video is up. 4 days. As for what goes into the patch, there are numerous things. For starters, 3 maps removed from the Automatch pool, Market Ruins, Bombarded Refinery, and the Eschen one. I can't quite remember it. Name is a bit sort of Rüstungswerke Essen. There you go. Rüstungswerke Essen will be removed amongst other things. Just a bit of a side of there. Personally, really happy about those being removed. But otherwise, a lot of details sort of happening there. We got some more quality of life stuff. You know, for example, cheese bags or ghost sandbags are gonna be fixed finally. Spacing for infantry will also be improved upon, which is going to be a huge boon for the Germans in particular. Wehrmacht especially will benefit a lot there from improved infantry spacing. Half-tracks will gain shared veterancy from nearby units, primarily infantry. Machine guns will provide a bit, and mortars and such will also provide a tiny bit of a sort of experience through that. But primarily, infantry will provide it. The Wehrmacht half-track for some reason will be able to, also transport mortars now. Like, that will make a huge difference. I think they still need to buff the 251 half-track a bit, but can't get everything, I suppose. Also, the AA half-track for the Americans and the Soviets, the one on the M5 half-track, will also receive some changes, so it won't be as good as it is on the move previously, though I think it will also be a bit cheaper. So, some slight changes there, sort of overall. Also, stealth units will be, well, less stealthy. They can't immediately sort of pop back. Snipers, anti-tank units, infantry, all of those will be a bit hard to just, shoot and then creep back into cover very rapidly with. So that's, for example, also going to be sort of a larger change there overall. As for the army specifics, for the Americans, mortars nerfed. It'll be cheaper, it'll be able to set up faster and get out faster, but it loses a lot of range. Its AoE will be less efficient, and overall just be geared more towards, firing smoke. It'll get some decent smoke range, but that's about it. It will otherwise be not such a great artillery unit, for example, so it won't be, as massively overpowering as it currently is. That's going to be sort of a big change there for the Americans. Riflemen lose a bit of received accuracy bonus at Veteran 3, so they won't be quite as Terminator-like there at Veteran 3. That's going to be a boon there. Stuarts will also be less efficient versus infantry. Also, the stun rounds will only be able to blind vehicles. They won't be able to stun them, so that also means the Stuart is going to be less, just a super light tank. That is also going to be, I think, rather beneficial there. Otherwise, the M15A1 also receives some changes there. Slightly better versus vehicles and some other slight changes, but overall nothing huge. Besides that, there are, I believe, no real huge changes. Changes for the Americans. Obviously, they're all pretty big, especially the mortar one. But those are sort of overall the changes for the USF. And should overall, of course, lead to some interesting... Oh yeah, the Riflemen can now only carry one single Browning light machine gun. They can no longer carry around both Browning LMGs from, say, tactical support or infantry companies. So that's also a slight detail there to keep in mind with them. So that's right there for the British. Sappers lose some of their sort of cheaper reinforcement at Veteran 3. They can also now only carry one Bren gun, so they sort of become less just super efficient infantry replacement, which happened a lot with the British late game. The AC armoured car also receives overall less efficiency versus infantry, but it does become better versus vehicles, gains better accuracy versus them. Its trait breaker ability has been improved upon as well, and it actually gains more armour, so there's some slight rejuggling there with the AC, overall resulting in it being better versus vehicles and not quite as murdersome versus infantry. So that's, for example, going to be a bit beneficial there as well for the Germans. And again, that's going to require the British to sort of think a bit more, whereas currently it's practically a light tank that can also threaten medium tanks quite decisively, which isn't quite good. Piets now also sort of gain the ability to seek out targets to become homing, basically like other anti-tank handheld weapons. But they do receive some nerfs and compensation. They become more expensive. They lose damage, and I think also a bit of penetration. So again, they will more likely hit targets now, but obviously there's going to be some other nastiness involved there. So we'll see how that works. I'm a bit worried it could just result in Piet blobs now sort of becoming even more effective. So we'll have to see how that works out. But that could get a bit worrisome. Also, the Universal Carrier can no longer turn into command vehicles, sort of, just keep pulling an aircraft there. So you actually have to use something a bit bigger than the Universal Carrier if you want the air reconnaissance for free. to sort of, work with it. But I think that's sort of there for the British, what they get, or at least the important bits. For the Soviets, there's a large series of changes as well. The penal troops get some big overhauls. They now lose the flamethrowers, but they get anti-tank rifles. And the satchel charge can now also double as sort of an anti-tank weapon that can actually stick and do engine damage if the vehicle to a certain extent a bit more damage. So you have to be a bit more careful around the penal troopers. But on the other hand, they also become a bit easier to kill. Guardsmen also gain some changes there. They also become a little less Superman-like. Again, they can take more damage, so they do a bit more damage to the veterancy. And that also reminds me of some of the Allied vehicles overall gain more experience bonuses to the veterancy, making them a bit more tougher as they gain veterancy. I should just want to mention that out. So, but that rather sort of covers there with the penal troops and the guardsmen again. The anti-tank rifles, I think, sort of do a bit more deflection damage. That could also get a bit worrisome, actually, to be honest. But we'll have to see how that works out. But overall, they'll be less overall super tough, but on the other hand, they'll scale in some ways better with veterancy. But again, it won't be in the bulletproof department scaling, which is, well, good. Other changes are the T-70, which becomes a lot less murderously efficiently versus infantry. Again, loses the AoE a bit. On the other hand, it gets a bit on the coaxial machine gun, but sure will be a lot less efficient at wiping units, especially retreating units. It does gain some bonuses to the veterancy and overall at veterancy 3. It will be quite lethal again, but it won't be, right off the bat super lethal, swing the game hard, which is really the problem with a lot of the Allied vehicles that are getting left. There's the Stuart, the T-70 and the AC. They could really swing the game hard for the Allies. I mean, if they were ahead, it could very easily cement it for them, and if they were behind, they could easily swing the game in favour of them. So in that regard, I'm kind of glad to see all of those three being nerfed. So that's pretty great, and should overall lead to a more interesting metagame overall. Hopefully, there'll probably be a lot of cries from certain Allied players who are refusing to adapt. It will take some time to adapt. But as for the Soviets, there's not so much else against the T-70, the penal troopers, and the guardsmen. I think sort of primarily the sort of the targets there have any sort of bigger changes from what I can recall. For the Oberkommando West, Panzerfaust now available from the truck. That is, you need to set it up. You can just have one truck out and they actually have access to Panzerfausts. It'll also be a bit cheaper, so that means the Oberkommando West will be less vulnerable to light vehicle rushes, which will certainly help them quite a bit. The flak half-track now gains smoke immediately. On the other hand, it becomes cheaper with the Veterancy 1. It also takes longer to build, but on the other hand, it now has a better ability to deal with the units inside houses. And it actually has more penetration now versus light vehicles. So that helps also a bit for the flak half-track. Might make it more viable, but I'm not 100% sure it's going to make it more useful because it's still not that good versus infantry either. It still easily gets swarmed, which is sort of one of the problems with a flak half-track. It gets too easily swarmed by infantry. And then also the looks, which gains some bonuses here and there. Overall, there's some slight changes. There's some rejiggering, so it's... But overall, it means I think it sort of becomes better dealing with infantry in certain circumstances. I can deal with garrison units as well there. But overall, that should mean sort of slightly different. It also, I think, becomes a bit more expensive. A bit hard to say there, but it overall should be an improvement to the looks, though there might be some areas where it's less good in, but overall it should be better. Academy has also been made to be more responsive now. I'm less sure about that's going to work out, but with the self-nerfs on the other hand, that might mean it's not going to be too overpowering, but still kind of good. We'll have to see how it works out with the Academy for that. It's sort of a tricky unit. Get a bunch of them, they can be really bastardy, but on the other hand, just one of them is going to be rather difficult to get anywhere, so we'll have to see where it goes with the Academy. Beyond that, there aren't really any sort of big changes for the Oberkommando West. There sort of really are the factions see bigger changes besides the Soviets again, with a lot of effort was just on the penal troopers. It's the Wehrmacht which really sort of gets a sort of fat chunk of it. For example, medic kits are now cheaper, heal more, and they can also be used on the unit itself. So basically, it allows units to just heal themselves, allowing for more aggressive tactics as the Wehrmacht. Pioneers get damage bonuses up close as well, even at better medium range, so that's not really saying much for the MP40s, but overall that will mean the Pioneers are better combat units as well, so that's an improvement. The Assault Grenadiers getting better veterancy, now they actually sort of are harder to kill at Veterans 1, plus they gain a cooldown on sprint, meaning they can sprint more, their grenades become cheaper, and they'll become more responsive, meaning they can be thrown faster. So in that regard, the Assault Grenadiers become a lot better. Panzer Grenadiers get some slight rejigging of the veterancy, so they actually gain some of the reduced received accuracy at veterancy already, meaning they'll be more survivable long term as well and be more likely to get towards it alongside, those changes to, unit spacing, meaning again, they're going to be a lot harder to just get wiped or killed. So that's going to be a nice move there for German Panzer Grenadiers as well. Plus the G43s become better as well. They actually sort of become a bit more effective at long range for the panzer gun it is, and that one will, by the way, also apply to the Stormtroopers G43, and you use them on those. So that's another little benefit there. The 222 becomes more expensive. Its autocannon becomes less effective as an infantry. On the other hand, the Cracks machine gun is made more reliable. Plus, it gains a lot of bonuses through veterancy. Plus, on top of accuracy bonuses for the machine gun through veterancy, the 222 also now becomes harder to hit at Veterancy 1 and at Veterancy 3. It actually gains the health bonus. So the 222 has all been, while made more expensive, has also, I think, been made a lot more consistent, reliable, and overall just better in the longer run. So I think that's going to be great there for the 222 and should allow sort of more tactics and strategies with it, alongside also just the Steward not being just insta-lock it down. So I think that should lead to some more interesting light vehicle gameplay between all of the factions. So again, that's pretty good. Stugi, one of the few medium vehicles or armoured vehicles that sort of seen a change there. That's obviously for another patch, but in this case it's become more like the Sturmpanzer. Basically a cheaper version that is less armoured, but overall sort of performs the same way now. It just fires a large shell. It can be used versus units and houses, all that, and its target weak point has also made a lot less efficient. Overall target weak point for the Puma has also in that way been changed a bit, for the Wehrmacht one that is, so it's also just not able to stun a unit hard down, or just blinded a bit like the Steward does now. I'm not sure that'll also apply to the Stu G though, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Hopefully it won't apply to the Pack 40, otherwise that could be a bit of a problem. That would be a huge nerf to the Pack 40 that way. But those are some of the bigger changes there. Again, the Wehrmacht sort of getting some good stuff there with the Pioneers, the Assault Gun it is, the Panzer Gun it is, and the 222. In theory, also, the half will now be more useful since now can gain veterancy for the units around it, meaning it can more quickly just gain its veterancy bonus, including a better reinforcement range, mobility, and even eventually some extra damage. So, I mean, that's not too bad at all. Plus, of course, better Pioneers. That certainly won't hurt either. And I'll probably have forgotten a thing or two, but that sort of covers the patch. Again, a lot of things here to help the infantry and the light vehicle gameplay, and that would say in particular, I think long term help out the Wehrmacht a bit more, meaning they'll be just less immediately curb stomped in the early game. Hopefully we'll get sort of the next phase where they'll be looking at the medium armor, and hopefully we can get something done with the Wehrmacht Tier 4. That would certainly be nice. So there you go, sort of a quick note there on the upcoming balance patch, and again, March 28th, mark it in your calendars. So hopefully this video has been instructional and hopefully useful to you. If it has, you know, subscribe, like, share and comment on it. This is Imperial Lane signing off until another time. Cheers.